y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Little Ways, Little Things. I am very happy to see you. I hope you are staying safe, and please leave me a comment down below and let me know how you're doing and what types of things that you're doing during this stay-at-home order, or if your part of the country doesn't have a stay-at-home order, let me know about that too. Today, I thought I would show you one of the recipes that I discovered because I have been looking for things to be a little bit different and a little bit inventive, because I'm trying not to have everyone get bored with the same thing day after day. But I happened to have two bananas that had gotten over brown, and I thought it would be so fun to try to make something with them. I found this really cool recipe out of an old Bisquick book. It's called Bisquick Impossible Banana Custard Pie, and I actually have the last piece right here because my family ate the rest of it. But here it is. I'm going to show you how to make that and also what the recipe is for that. And I did that over the weekend. And also, I'm sure a lot of you may have also been making masks like I have. Here is my mask. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a basic tutorial on how I do my masks, and it's kind of a combination of a lot of things. I think ultimately when you're making masks, you just find something, a pattern or a way to do it that you're most comfortable with, and that's what I did. But I will link everything down below. I will link the pattern for it and the video that are videos that I watched to be able to figure it out, and then how I do it. So I'm going to link all of that down below, but I'll tell you what I like about this particular mask. I like that at the top here, I have a little piece of wire sewn so that when you put it on, let me see if I can just put it on for a second here. Oops. When you put it on, you can bend the mask to fit a tighter fit around your nose. So, and obviously these are separated and tied like that. So I like the mask. My family likes them. They think they're very comfortable. Once again, this little thing is so cool. I love this little piece of wire. It's a piece of floral wire, and I usually just had it in my regular craft area, so I used the whole spool of that. And of course, I had gotten some U of H fabric from Etsy because we're big cougar fans. The inside lining is ladybugs, but I've done a bunch of them. Some of them I've already given away, and I have more here that I've been working on. Oh, another big thing that's going on right now is no elastic. So these are the tie kind, and these ties are from a t-shirt. So I can tell you a little bit more about that and give you the instructions and the pattern and all that. I love this ladybug one. It's got owls on the inside. I have more Houston Cougar ones, and the whole deal is I only used fabric that I already had at home. So I didn't have, you know, any kind of cute fabric or anything like that. I just had scraps from what I already had at home. I'm also not a sewer, but I do have a sewing machine. So you can watch how I got through the mask making kind of ordeal on this video, and also the recipe for the banana pie. Leave me a comment down below. I'm very interested to know what you're doing during the stay-at-home order and how your family is doing, and I'm just keeping everyone in my prayers and just trying to get through this. Let's get started with this banana custard pie. In a bowl, I'm putting 2 very overripe bananas with 2 teaspoons lemon juice, and I'm going to mash those together. These bananas were not that bad. My family just doesn't like them to be overly brown, so I usually make banana bread. But today I thought I'd try this cool pie. So in a separate bowl, I've put a 1/2 cup of Bisquick, a 1/4 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of melty butter, a 1/2 teaspoon vanilla, and 2 eggs. Don't worry about writing this down. I'm going to have it linked down below, and you could print it out for yourself. The last ingredient is this very yummy 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. I love sweetened condensed milk. It's so sinful and so yummy. So I definitely would keep a couple spoonfuls out and aside for your coffee tomorrow morning. But in any case, I am going to mix this really, really well and make sure it's really incorporated well. I have also had the oven preheating to 350, and I've taken a 9-inch glass pie plate and sprayed it with some canola oil spray to keep everything from sticking. So that's basically all there is to it. The recipe down below says that you can add some Cool Whip on top and then some caramel ice cream topping with some nuts and some extra slices of banana, but I really didn't have any caramel topping and was pretty lazy, so all I did was spread Cool Whip on it, and it was super, super good. So I think if you maybe cut down on the sugar a little bit and sprinkled it with powdered sugar instead of adding the Cool Whip on the top, that it could really pass for a breakfast. Yeah, I'm really, really serious. Maybe not everyone's idea of a healthy breakfast, but it could pass for my breakfast. So I'm going to put the mixture into the pie plate, and then I'm going to be putting it into the oven. Like I said, I have it heated to 350, so I'm going to put it in there, and the recipe I think was like calling for 40 minutes or 45 minutes, but I was trying to be super careful because sometimes my oven tends to over brown things. So I started to just put it in at 40 minutes because I thought that would kind of keep it from getting over brown, but it actually did get a little over brown. When it comes out of the oven, I'll show you right there. I think it got a little over brown. It's not burned by a long shot, but definitely a little more brown than it should. So I would say between 35 and 45 minutes. Watch it depending on your oven so that you can pull it out just as it gets golden and not so overly brown. After that, you just want to let it cool, and then I spread the Cool Whip on it. You can at this point put a little bit of the ice cream caramel sauce on it or some nuts or extra banana slices. It was just really, really yummy. Both of us, my daughter and I, were just waiting for it to come out of the oven to give it a try. We both really liked it. I'm going to cut into it and show you the texture. It does kind of make a little crust, not like a pastry crust, but it does make a little bit of a crust, and it tastes a lot like kind of a custard or a harder flan, but it was really banana tasting and really, really yummy. Let's switch gears now and talk about the mask. We're short on elastic everywhere here, so I'm going to use an old t-shirt that I folded in half lengthwise and cut the hem off of. I'm going to line it up neatly on my cutting board and cut a 1-inch strip. That 1-inch strip, when you open it up, it turns into like a big circle. So I'm going to cut it where it folds in half. I'm going to cut it on one side and then where it folds in half on the other side. And basically that makes 2 of the same size, really long strips. Here's the magic part. If you pull on these strips lengthwise, they roll up and it looks just like bias tape, only it's stretchy. So t-shirt fabric actually made the perfect ties for these masks. The next thing I'm going to do is take a piece of fabric faced upwards and fold it so that it's facing like sides together, or the right sides together, and the pattern is facing upwards. Then I'm going to put this little gray pattern on top of it and trace it. I got the pattern from Sweet Red Poppy, and I will link it down below along with her videos, which were very helpful in helping me learn how to make these masks. The next thing I'm going to do is cut it out, and that gives me the 2 little fabric pieces that are faced together, and then I'm going to do it again with some liner fabric that's gray owl fabric. You really want to use 2 different patterns. That way, when the person takes the mask off, they will know which side was the side closest to their mouth and which side was on the outside, so they don't get confused. So it really makes sense to use a different kind of liner than the outer fabric. The next thing I'm going to do is sew the two liner pieces together and then sew the two outer fabric pieces together. That's just showing you what I'm going to use with the t-shirt ties and the 4 pieces of fabric. So here's the liner piece, and I'm starting at the really high angle that pulls up. It's supposed to be the part that goes around your nose, and I'm just going to sew along the curved edge. It starts with the really high peak that's angled and goes downward at a curve. So you'll be able to see it on the pattern, but I'm just going to sew that together, and I'm kind of backing up to make sure it's real sturdy. And then I'm going to move on to the other piece of fabric, which is going to be the outer piece. It doesn't matter which order you do it in, but just make sure you sew both of the like pieces together and face sides together always. So I am doing that same thing with the U of H fabric. I'm just making a little seam going all the way down the curve, and I'm just using my presser foot as a guide. So I don't know if that's like a 1/4 inch seam or an 1/8 of an inch seam or whatever, but anyway, it works fine just using the presser foot. Then I'm going to cut little notches. Don't cut through your seam no matter what you do. Just cut right up to the seam or right below it, not through the seam. You don't want to cut into the seam you just sewed. And then you're going to press the seam open. So just make sure they're both little edges are pressed open so that there's not a lot of bulk in there. I also pushed out the mask part and ironed that too so that it would just be really easy to work with. I did the same thing with the other piece of fabric so that basically you wind up with like 2 halves of the mask. I think it's probably being explained a little bit harder than it really was, but I think you get the picture. So once you get everything ironed really well, that's when you start pinning the mask back together. But before I do that, I'm going to stop and cut a piece of floral wire. And you can see that I didn't have all the same size gauge, so I've been using whatever gauge I could get my hands on, kind of like a medium type gauge, but this is just regular floral wire that I had around the house, and I'm using some needle nosed pliers to kind of curl the little ends into a circle because you don't want the end of the wire to poke through the fabric. So I'm making little circles at the end of the wire so that it'll kind of be a little bit stable and not want to push through the fabric so much. So after I've got those little circles on both sides of the wire, I am going to mark a 3/8 of an inch mark at the top and a 4/8 of an inch mark at the bottom of my outer fabric, the fabric that's going to be seen on the outside. I'm going to do that on both sides. 3/8 of an inch at the top and 4/8 at the bottom. And then I'm going to pin the ties to those little marks. So that's how I know that I'm spacing them evenly on both sides. Now the pattern in the video said that both of the hash marks should be at 3/8 of an inch, but mine have just been working better with the bottom one spaced at 4/8 of an inch. So just do it however you like and adjust it how you like. The next thing I'm going to do is shove all the pieces of the t-shirt ties inside of the little face part, nose part of the mask so they don't get accidentally sewn together. And I'm going to put like or right sides together, the right sides together so that I can have the kind of the back side facing upward on both. So both right sides together. And then pin everything together. It's not going to be perfectly flat because you have the concave part of the mask that you're working with. So just do your best and get it all pinned together, making sure that as you're pinning, those t-shirt ties stay in the middle of the mask where the little concave part of the nose and mouth is, because you don't want those accidentally getting sewn to the little seams of the mask. Now at the very bottom by the chin or the cheek, I left an opening so that I could turn it inside out. I'm going to go back to my sewing machine and I'm going to start sewing around using my presser foot as a little seam edge guide. When I get to a corner, I'm lifting up the presser foot and rotating the fabric. And every time I go over one of those straps or one of those ties, I back over it to make sure it's very, very secure. So that's basically it. I'm sewing right sides together and sewing over the ties and backing up over them to make sure they're very, very secure. And then I'm just going to kind of take that wire and use a piece of washi tape to secure it at the very top seam that goes around your nose. So I'm going to secure the floral wire up there with washi tape, which is no problem. You can sew over that and just pull it back up. And I'm sorry I didn't get it very, very focused here, but I was kind of trying to make sure that I could keep that wire stuck onto the fabric. So what you do is you sew a zigzag stitch. Make sure that it's a really wide zigzag right over the wire with the wire right down the middle of the presser foot. And you just sew it right above your top seam that goes over your nose. That's it. It's very easy to do. It kind of makes a little channel for it, and then it's sewn right to the mask. Super easy. I just removed the washi tape, and now I'm going to be turning it back inside out. A couple of things about the mask. Just make sure that when you're turning it inside out, you watch that wire and kind of be careful with it. Also make sure that you wash the fabric before you start to work on it, so that if it's going to shrink, it takes care of itself before you ever start making the mask. And I would use 100% cotton for the fabric. I want to also make sure that you know that a mask doesn't protect you from COVID-19, but it does protect other people from any germs that you may be carrying. So if you wear a mask, you protect me, and if I wear one, I protect you. And really, our lives are in each other's hands right now, and that's a beautiful thing. The last thing I'm going to do is sew that little opening closed, the opening that I used to turn the mask inside out with. I just sewed it closed with one little stitch, one little seam right down the middle. And then I'm going to take those really long ties and I'm going to cut them so that instead of having two ties that are connecting to each side of the mask, I'm going to now have four, because I'm going to cut them down the middle so that the top two will be able to tie together and the bottom two will be able to tie together. The last thing I'm doing is just stretching out those t-shirt ties a little bit more and putting a knot on the end to make sure that it looks nice and neat. The last thing I'm going to do is give my mask a quick press. After you come in from wearing your mask, you should wash them just to make sure they stay clean and healthy, and also it's nice to give them a little press. My family really thought these masks were quite comfortable, and it's not so much of a drag to have to wear them. It's not so great, but at least they're fun and comfortable. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you decide to make a mask, and if you do, tag me on Instagram so I can see it. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button down below and hit the bell to be notified the next time I upload a video, and give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps my channel.